Cory Hendricks, thanks a lot for doing this. Where did you grow up and what was that like?
I grew up in Lyndon, Washington. It's a small town in the very northwest corner of Washington State. Small farming town, a lot of dairy farms, also a lot of strawberries and raspberries and blueberries. So, pretty rural area.
Did you do farming when you were a kid?
No, I didn't grow up on a farm. I just grew up surrounded by them. And then, I would go to farms. I have friends who grew up on farms and stuff. So I grew up around farms and going to farms, but not farming myself.
And being an athlete, were you always into sports or did you always say I want to compete like in boxing or jujitsu or anything like that?
I was always into sports. I don't know, as like a young boy, I was always like, I guess like a lot of boys obsessed with like martial arts and the military and stuff. I checked out like every book from the library on every martial art and every like branch of the military and stuff. But I never actually got into doing any of that when I was young. My first love was soccer. Started playing that when I was like 4 or 5. And then in like third grade, I found basketball and that became my main thing. So I played soccer and basketball through like all my younger years. And then in middle school, eighth grade, I was convinced to play football instead of soccer. So I played basketball and football. And I liked that. But when I got to high school, I went back to soccer and I played soccer and basketball for the first 3 years of high school. And then my senior year, I got talked into football again. And so I played football, basketball, and soccer. And then after high school, I went to community college where I played basketball.
So how did you get into martial arts and fighting then?
Um, I mean, like I said, I always was like kind of interested in it, but it wasn't like a thing that was really super common around where I was from. So when I really got into it was after community college. I played basketball my 2 years there, and after that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. So I wasn't planning on going to 4 year school. So I just started like working some jobs, and having played sports my whole life, I'd always been busy doing sports things. That was just took up most of my time. And then all of a sudden, I just had all this free time on my hands because it was the first time in my life where I wasn't playing a sport. I was just, working a job. So I was working out at the local gym, and I met some guys there who trained, and I just kind of started training with them. I needed something to kind of, fulfill my competitive urges, and yeah, just something to do with my time. And I just kind of fell in love with it and wanted to see how far I could take it.
Were you training mixed martial arts or was that a thing when you started or was it jujitsu or kickboxing or all of it combined?
It was straight MMA. I jumped straight into everything at once.
Great. How did you get to Las Vegas?
Well, I got to Las Vegas because I wanted to see how far I could take MMA, and I needed to put myself in a better situation or I wanted to put myself in the best situation to give myself the highest chances of success with that. And being from a small town where there's just not a lot of not a lot of coaches and training partners, and just not the best environment to make a career out of it, I realized I just need to move somewhere else to do that. And Las Vegas is the fight capital of the world. Lots of opportunity here. And as a bonus, it isn't really that far away from where I'm from. It's like a 2 hour and 15-minute flight. So it's not, I didn't see it as like too big of a deal because I could come home as long as I had the money and the time, like fairly easily. So I was like, I'm going to just put myself in a better situation and with a better chance of success. And so I moved to Las Vegas.
When you got to town, what was that like when you got to Vegas, that is? What was that like? Were you working jobs? I know Tough Enough is a thing here. Did you get into Tough Enough or were you just doing like exhibitions, smokers? What were you doing?
Uh, well, when I got here, I started working at Throwdown, which is now Syndicate, but back then it was Throwdown. I worked the front desk part time, and I'd saved a bunch of money up prior to moving down, and uh, the way my mindset when I moved down was like, I don't want to. I wanted it to all be about fighting. So like, there was opportunities that I could have had to like maybe go work down on the strip and like make good money and stuff, but to me it was kind of counterintuitive to my goals because I would have made good money and been able to live off that very well, but it would have detracted from my training, and that's not what I was here to do. So I wanted to focus 100% on my training. So I worked part-time working the front desk at the gym, which was not enough money to get by. So I was like just very slowly draining my savings, and I was hoping I could, I don't know, figure something out. And I don't really know what I was hoping, but I was hoping I could make it happen somehow without having to get a full-time job where I couldn't train the way I wanted. And after 13 months, I ran out of money and I had to move back home. And so I moved back home for 8 months, just lived with my parents, worked a construction job, saved up more money until I moved back here, and I've been here ever since.
That's pretty crazy. What was your did you do fights in Washington, or were your first fights in Las Vegas?
I had 4 amateur fights back in Washington before I moved to Las Vegas. And then I had, so I had 9 amateur fights. So I had 5 more. Well, actually, no, I did one of my fights was back in Washington. So I had 4 amateur fights before I moved to Las Vegas. I had 4 more here. And then while I was here, I also had one that was back in Washington.
Cool. When you were fighting here, what was the competition like? Was the fights the people you were fighting against, were they the same caliber, or did you notice when you got to Vegas that people were actually a lot better?
Um, I would say, I mean, the fights I had here were tougher, but I don't, it's not that there wasn't any tough guys to fight back home. I think it was just more like, your very first fight, you're not gonna, you want to work your way up. You don't want to start out with the really tough guys. So like, I had 4 fights and then I moved here. So like, obviously I'm going to fight like a tougher guy than I had when I had my first fight. I lost my first fight when I moved here. It wasn't tough enough. I, it was my first 4 fights I had, I never got hit. And then I moved here, and it was actually like the very first punch that I actually got hit with dropped me, and I got TKO'd. So it was kind of I don't know, I guess it really didn't phase me too much, but it's kind of weird. Like from outside perception, it probably looked pretty bad because like I moved to Vegas to fight, and then like the very first fight and the very first time I get hit, I get dropped. And so, I mean, I guess it did like put thoughts in my head. I was like, oh, well, what if I just like can't take a punch? Or like, what if I just, whatever. But like my whole thing was like, I know it's like a long shot to like make a living and be really, really successful in fighting and like, be able to retire off that and be a champion, all that stuff. It's a long shot, but my whole mindset, like moving down here was I would rather fail than not know. Like I didn't want to be like 50 years old and like sit there and think like, oh, I wonder if I could have done it or not. Like I would rather move down here, like give it the best shot I possibly could, and then just kind of find out. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but then I don't have that like lingering question of like, could I have done it or could I not? So yeah, it would kind of, it like, I guess it kind of messed with my head maybe a little bit, but I was still not, I'm not just going to stop after the one fight. Like we'll keep going, like make sure like, oh, either maybe I find out that I definitely can't do it, or maybe I find out that I can. But either way, I'm going to get an answer to that question.
Yeah, you moved here for that goal. One setback, if that one setback derailed you, then you probably shouldn't be doing it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If, I don't know. Yeah. I've had people who, like at the gym say things like, they had a fight or something. And they're like, oh, I broke my nose and, did whatever. I got little things like that. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if it's really worth it for me to do this. And if you're questioning it like that quickly, then yeah, it's probably not for you. Like, cause I remember like when the guy told me that once, I was like, I mean, at that point I was like, I'd broken my nose like, I don't know, 8 or 9 times. And the thought never came into my head of like, oh, I shouldn't do it because of that. So he said that to me and I was like, oh yeah, you probably shouldn't do it then if you're questioning after that. I've had a number of things happen to me, and looking back, maybe like that the question should have popped into my head of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this because of this injury or whatever happened, but it just never did. So I don't know. It's not for everybody.
Definitely not. What's the biggest or the most intense injury that you fought with?
That I fought with, like went into a fight with. Well, it's either going to be I tore my meniscus like 5 weeks out from a fight before. That was kind of rough. Didn't well no it did affect me during the fight. Like I could only fight out of one stance. I could only fight, I think it was orthodox, and it's kind of limited my movement and stuff a little bit. But it wasn't the end of the world. Like I could still fight just fine. But then it's either that or my neck injury. When I have a couple bulging discs in my neck, and my first like that happened on the Ultimate Fighter, and then I fought like 5 months later, and I was good enough to fight. Like I was at like the bare minimum of what I thought was acceptable to like make it through a training camp. Like I was able to put in like the bare minimum amount of work that thought was necessary to go into a fight prepared. But it was like my left arm was like way weaker, and I was fairly limited. It wasn't like ideal, but I felt comfortable going into the fight, and I still thought I was going to win the fight. But that was pretty limiting.
You brought up the Ultimate Fighter. How did you get on that? Or did you get on the Ultimate Fighter because you were in Vegas at Throwdown, or what was the process to get on the show?
There's a tryout, but they know like 90% ahead of time, like who they're going to take. So a lot of it, I think that helped me was just people I knew, like my coaches and people like knowing the producers and the people in the UFC. So they put it out there ahead of time for me. You have to have a minimum. Well, I don't know if they've changed it. It's probably pretty similar, but when I got on it, you had to have a minimum of 3 professional fights. So I had my third professional fight, and then I had to like, there was an issue because like some of them, I think my second fight or something, like hadn't been sent in to SureDog or like the websites. So it wasn't on there. It wasn't on my official record. So I had to like, complain to the promoter to like get him to put that on. So I had my 3 fights so I could get on and go try out. And then, so I think most of it though was like knowing the right people. But there's the tryout. You go to the tryout and it's really short. Starts with grappling. So you have everyone who's trying out and they just match you up. I don't know if it's random or whatever, but they match you up and you roll for like, I don't think it's even 5 minutes. I think it's like, it might be like 2 minutes or something like that. You roll for 2 minutes, and I did well in it. I tapped the dude that I was rolling with twice, and those were the only submissions the whole time out of everyone. I had kind of a different strategy going into it that I thought was better too. Like everyone like because I think we were starting out on the knees. I don't think we weren't starting out on the feet. It was starting out on the knees, and everyone would like both of them started on their knees and like fight for position. And I just started on my butt. And so I just kind of took bottom position. And my thought process with that was like, if we start on the knees and there's a scramble and I lose and end up on bottom, that looks bad. But if I just start out on bottom, I have nowhere to go but up. Like, he didn't put me on bottom. I just did it. And then maybe I sweep him. That looks really good. But I just thought it would look better if I didn't lose a scramble and end up on bottom. I'll just start there and then, yeah, nowhere to go but up. And I thought it would just look better. But either way, it worked out well because I got a couple submissions out of it, and I was the only one with submissions during that. So that looked good. And then after that, they make a cut, get rid of a bunch of people, and then they have you hit pads. And there's like, they have like their people, the matchmakers and whoever else watching to like make their decisions and stuff. And it's not like they're watching just you hit pads. They'll have like 10 different people out there on the mats hitting pads, and you hit pads for like a minute. And sometimes they'll just tell you to get out even sooner after 30 seconds or whatever. So I just hit some pads. And then after everyone hits pads, then they make another cut. And they whittle it down even more. And then after that, you have like interviews with the producers where you just go and you just talk to them. And then after that, then they like make their final cut and get it down to who's going to be on the show. Or in my case, actually, this was a season where you had to fight to get onto the show.
So it must have been pretty crazy to come from Washington, a farming town in Washington, and go, man, I think I want to be a fighter in Las Vegas. And then you get on the Ultimate Fighter. You pass all the entry, or you pass everything to get into the show. What was your mind like? Man, I'm making it, or were you like, oh, I got more work to do?
There's always more work to do. Like the whole thing is like, I think you should just, in everything, but especially when you're fighting, just always be improving, like always getting better. If you stagnate, like everyone else is just going to pass you by. So just always get better. But it definitely felt like things were working out. I remember even like going, because after the show, like I didn't win the show. I got injured, and so I had to pull out. But they did give me a fight on the finale, and I remember it did feel like this is like the way the story's supposed to go. You know, like I've had like my ups and downs and things, like, you know, moving to Vegas, losing that first amateur fight. But then, you know, like turns around, and like, so I've had my bumps, but then like I get on the Ultimate Fighter, and then I had to pull out due to injury, but then I get this fight in the UFC. So like it did really feel like everything was working out and everything was just going the way it was supposed to go. And I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Everything's working out. Like, it just felt right. Didn't work out that way. I lost my UFC fight, but like at the time leading into it, I was like, I felt really good. Like everything was going well overall.
That's cool. That's cool to know. I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, always wonder that kind of thing. Like what's going through your mind when you're on that show and everything like that. So the UFC didn't work out. You fought for PFL and ACB. How's an organization that's in Eastern Europe differ from the American organizations, and what's it like fighting over like in Russia versus fighting in America?
The league's not really, I mean, it's all fighting at the end of the day. Like, at the end of the day, it's just a fight. It's the same rules and everything, so it's just a different location. That's the way I've always kind of viewed it. Like, wherever you're fighting or whatever league you're fighting in, like, whether, you know, it's my amateur fight or the UFC, like, it's all the same. Like, yeah, maybe your opponent's tougher, or maybe more people are watching, or whatever. Maybe there's more money on the line or more career-wise on the line. But at the end of the day, it's just a fight. It's all the same. That's the way I've always kind of tried to view it. And like, yeah, you know, some of the other stuff will mess with your head and everything, but I just always tried to like kind of center it on the fact that it's all the same. At the end of the day, it's just a fight. It's just you and the other dude in the cage, and you know, you have the same or at least a very similar rule set. You know, there's a few differences here and there in some places, but it's basically the same thing. You just get in there and fight the other dude. It doesn't matter if, like, you know, you're just in the gym training or you're, I don't know, in a fight, like fighting for a belt in the UFC. Like, it's just a fight. It's all the same. So, yeah, going over there, it's the same rule set and everything. I mean, they don't have drug testing over there, so I mean, the guys you're fighting could be on steroids, but I don't know. I never really put too much stock into that. I might be kind of just ignorant to the benefits of them because I've never done them. Like I'm sure they help you, but I've just never really cared about if my opponent does steroids because in my mind, just if I'm the better fighter, I don't really think that should matter a whole lot. I still, yeah, I just wasn't worried about it. The main thing I would say with fighting over there is just the travel. You know, when I fought in like Kazakhstan and Russia and stuff, it was like a 12 or 13 hour time difference. So it's literally the exact opposite of here, which was the most difficult part. Just there's not really enough time to really adjust to that time zone. So that can kind of mess with you a little bit. I remember like one of my fights, when I fought Luke Barnett, I think that was in Kazakhstan. Went over there and I just couldn't sleep, like, or fight week, because, you know, you're fighting on Friday or Saturday. And so you get out there usually on like Monday or Tuesday. And I remember like the whole lead up, I never got more than like 6 hours of sleep in a night, that whole week. I just couldn't sleep for whatever reason. I got started to get a little bit more towards the end. I got like the 6 hours and stuff, but like at the beginning it was like 3 or 4 hours first couple days and then like another hour. And then, so I was just exhausted. Like I need a lot of sleep and that was not near enough. So that was difficult. I remember I was like, me and my coach actually we're sitting there at the arena. Like you get there a while before the fights. I'm just like struggling to stay awake. And I know I got to like go fight someone in a couple hours. So that was a little tough, but I'd say, yeah, just the toughest part of it is just the different time zones. The travel is kind of annoying, cause you're just sitting for, you know, traveling over there. It'd be like 20 hours of travel, like with flights and layovers and stuff. So that'd be kind of rough because one, you got to like keep to your diet and water loading and all that stuff while you're traveling is kind of annoying. But then two, you're also just sitting for so long when, you know, it's not good for the body to be so stagnant. Like you want to be moving and doing things. So that's always a little tough too.
Yeah, it's got to be hard knowing that you got to cut weight and you must bring like a bunch of water. Like your carry-on must be full of just water.
I mean, I don't bring it with me. I'll just drink as much as I can there. Go there. Once you're in the airport, buy water, chug it, fill it up, chug it again. Just keep the water coming. Anytime they offer you water on the plane, take it.
Yeah.
And then I guess, yeah, another aspect of it too is just the diet. Cause like I didn't know what kind of food they had in Kazakhstan. I don't know. It's not always like I think it's best to eat the same thing. Like you get your routine of like what you eat and your body's like used to it and everything. So you can kind of gauge, you know, what your body's going to do with how much food you put in and stuff. But then when you're traveling, you can't always eat the exact same. So I guess that's another variable you have to deal with.
Got it. So you recently became an EMT and then now you're a firefighter. Do you find it strange that you went from hurting people to now saving lives?
Not really.
Is it one and the same?
No, it's just, I don't know. It's just a job. Yeah. I mean, well, one thing's just, I like fighting, but I need a, stable career, and so this is it's a career that I don't know fits with me. I guess like I wouldn't want to do like an office job. It's it's a physical job. It's the kind of people that do the job are generally like kind of similar to me, kind of people that I would like, similar mindset and everything. So yeah, I don't find anything weird about it.
Yeah, now that you say that, if you think of like the stereotypical thought of a firefighter, it's kind of like a regular, like somebody that's in the military or somebody that's a fighter. You know, you would like to think of them as like strong, strong-willed. What is the mindset? Do you have the same mindset being a fighter to an EMT to a firefighter, or or is your mindset different?
You mean in what way do you mean, like
Well, you're going
my
into a
overall
ring,
life
or
mindset, or like
yeah, well, going to like say you're going to go into the octagon, you're going to fight someone. You're like, oh my god, I'm in here. This guy's trying to hurt me. I'm going to hurt this guy, and then you're going into say possibly a burning building or something. Is your thought process of like your workouts and your diet the same, or does the job make you think differently of like how to approach your fitness and everything?
uh fitness. I mean, I just kind of stick with fighting stuff for like health and fitness because I don't know, it's just something I can't really give up. Like I'm gonna train and take care of myself for the rest of my life. Like it's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of like a part of like the person that I am now, like in the way I live my life. Like, I mean, there's a saying like in the fight world, like fighting is it's not like something you do, it's like a lifestyle. You have to like live it. And it's very true because like if you can't, if you're just doing it for fun or as a hobby or whatever, that's different. But like if you're trying to like do it at a high level, fight professionally and take it seriously and, see how far you can go with it, like it has to be a lifestyle. It has to seep in and control like every aspect of your life. Like once I made up my mind that I was going to pursue fighting, it like put a filter in my mind of that every decision passed through. Like, so before I decided anything, the first layer that of the decision making process was just how is this going to affect fighting, and that's like everything of like what time you're going to go to bed. Am I going to eat this? Am I going to drink that? Am I going to go this? Am I going to go on that trip? Am I going to go over here and do this thing? Like someone invites you to something. The first thing that went through my mind was like, how's this going to affect fighting? Is this going to keep me up late to where I'm not well rested and I'm not good for training tomorrow? Is this going to make me miss a training session? Do I want to eat that? Like, is it going to make me better or worse? Like, how's it going to affect me? Like, is that going to make my weight shoot way up? Is that something nutritionally helpful for you, or is it like a negative thing that's going to just bring you down? So, yeah, when you're fighting, everything has to go through that filter first if you want to do it correctly. So that's just kind of something that I like. It's been put in my life, and I've done it for so long that I don't think I can really fully take that off. Like I can kind of ease up on it. Like once I'm not going to fight at all anymore, I can ease up a little bit. But just that's the way I like to live my life too. Because I don't know why, but like I don't like. I think the hardest part of like not training full time and having that be my primary focus is just knowing that I'm not like at like the peak of my capabilities. Like I don't like walking around and knowing that I could lose a fight to a higher percentage of people than I could right now. Like this kind of I guess probably most people can't relate to that, but yeah, I want to just always be at like the best of my abilities and always be able to beat as many people as possible in a fight should it come to that. So I keep that, and like honestly, if you're in shape to fight, you're in shape to do most things. Like you can get more specialized for different things. Like, it's not going to make you like the best like long distance runner or power lifter or whatever, but it'll keep you in shape for most things and definitely keeps you in shape for firefighting. I guess as far as like the overall mindset, I think a lot of my mindset, well, a lot of fighting has shaped a lot of like who I am and the way I do things and stuff. And one of the benefits I think is the mindset from that, and that carries over to firefighting of just like focusing on the task at hand and the process. It's like you go to fight someone, there can be a lot of emotions and thoughts and stuff, but you can be like worried about like, oh, is this guy gonna hurt me? Is he gonna knock me out? Am I gonna break my leg, break my nose? Like, am I gonna win? Am I gonna lose? Am I gonna get embarrassed? Like all this stuff, but none of that's actually productive. And so you have to, I mean, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it or anything, but as best I can, you just kind of shove those thoughts out of your head because they aren't benefiting you in any way. Like if I'm fighting you and I'm worried about like the people watching me or worried about if I'm going to get hurt, it's just not helping me. It's just a distraction and is keeping me from the task at hand, where I should just be focused on the fight and like, what are you doing? What am I trying to do here? Like, gauging the range or movement or reading your patterns or using my patterns to set you up or whatever. So it's kind of the same thing with firefighting. You just kind of carry that mentality over. Like, you can be nervous about whatever it is about you're about to do, stressed about any of that, but it's ultimately not beneficial to you. It's just holding you back. You just need to focus on the task at hand and the process of like, what is going to help solve this problem that's in front of me. Same thing. It's just the same thing. It's just a different task. Like, what is going to help me win this fight here? Or what is going to help me do what I need to do here, whether it's fighting a fire or helping someone medically. You just got to go through the process that will accomplish the goal.
That's pretty cool. What, being a fighter and an athlete pretty much your whole life, what do you find to be the best diet if you're going to give advice to someone, say like me, who isn't a pro fighter, who's just someone who likes to exercise and move around, what's the best type of diet that you found to help you achieve your optimum energy and exertion?
Well, I'm not a nutritionist. There's plenty of people who have way more in-depth insight to this. Like, I've obviously learned a little bit about it over the years, and like my diet was pretty bad before I started fighting. I used to have, it was really fun and I enjoyed it a lot, but my mentality around food, not knowing anything about it at the time before I got into fighting, was just I'll just eat whatever I want and as much of it as I want, and I will through that get all the nutrition that I need, and then all the junk I will just burn off through exercise. It's not a great way to do things at all. Don't recommend it, but it was really, really fun. I could just eat bowls and bowls of cereal and as many cookies as I wanted and whatever. I loved it. Definitely not the best, but that was what I did before I got into fighting, and then I had to really start like caring about it. And like looking back, when I was doing that, I can definitely see now that it was holding me back. I remember there were sometimes I'd get into like a basketball game and I'd just be tired and I didn't know why. And looking back, I'm like, it's probably my diet and nutrition. So yeah, I don't know the most about it, but I know some, and just for like, just kind of a broad concept to apply is just to eat real food, just eat actual food. Like if it wasn't alive at some point, just don't eat it. So eat like meat and fruits and vegetables and just things that were living at one point. Like take like a Twinkie or something. Like what is that made of? Like I don't think you can tell me like what is in that. Like you can't be like, oh yeah, they took a chicken and they took some grapes and they combined it and they got this. Like, no, it's like not real food. It's like some fabricated, made up human thing, and it's junk. There's like there's a, I don't know, not saying or whatever, but they say like you should like you should stay on the outside of the grocery store. Don't go to the inner aisles. And you stay on the outside, that's where just like the real stuff is. That's where like the meat and the dairy, the fruits and the vegetables and all that is. So that's kind of a good concept. But overall, just eat real food, eat like organic food. Don't involve chemicals in it. Like a lot of our food, most corporations in America are trying to poison you in one way or another. And it's not necessarily that they're just like evil. Well, I guess they're kind of evil, but like it's not necessarily that their goal is like, hey, we're going to poison these people. It's just that they can make more money by doing that. And they're greedy, so they're going to do whatever they can to make more money. So if they can spray all these chemicals on the food to make it look better, so you'll buy it, and just make whatever concoctions of chemicals that taste good, so you'll buy it, they're going to do it. So just eat organic, real food that doesn't have all these chemicals sprayed on it, because that's bad for you. So the kind of simplest thing I can say is, like, eat real food, things that were alive, plants, animals, and then eat them without chemicals being sprayed onto them. And then also just don't eat more than you need to. Like, I think some good advice is, like, I've heard is, like, eat till you're like 80% full. Don't eat till you're like full and you can't eat anymore. Like, no, just eat till you're satisfied, and then you're good.
Got it. What are the requirements to become a firefighter?
You have to pass like this. There's like this test you go into a testing center and take, and it tests like your mechanical aptitude, like your English comprehension, your math. It's honestly really easy. It's not difficult at all. Like the requirements to get in and become a firefighter aren't really that high at all. It's, you gotta take that test, and then like departments will look at the score on that test, and each department has like a different threshold for what they consider passing that test. But you do that. You have to be EMT certified. So you just got to go take the course, pass the course, get the certification. There's like is it the CPAT? I think I forget what it stands for, but it's like the physical test to make sure you're physically fit enough to do the job. It's just like, it's like a government test. So like, it's, again, very easy. Like, if you can't pass it, you definitely shouldn't be a firefighter, because it's not hard. Just if you exercise at all, you should be fine. So it's not that the requirements to become a firefighter are really hard. The hard part is actually just getting the job, because there's generally a lot of people trying to get the job and a very limited amount of slots for the job. So that's really the hard part. It's just more the interview and like getting accepted into fire academy and into the department. That's the hard part. Everything else isn't really that difficult.
So the requirements aren't as stringent as you would think. It's more the interview process.
Yeah, it's government stuff. It's just you gotta prove that you're not a total idiot and that you're not completely physically incapable, basically. Like, it's pretty low requirements. It's just getting accepted into the job.
What advice would you give someone who doesn't live in Vegas that wants to come here and be a fighter, be an EMT or a firefighter? What advice would you give them to pursue that goal?
Well, the firefighting EMT thing, like, you can do that anywhere. There's not necessarily like one place that's going to be better for you to do that than another. For that, I mean, honest, one, you should be exercising, working out, but you should already be doing that anyway, just as a human being. Like, if you're not, every human should work out. Like, if you're not, then you're doing it wrong. So one, you should already be doing that. You should get your EMT. You should also just talk to some firefighters. Like, if you don't know any, you can always just go down to just go down there and just talk to them. Like, go to a firehouse, and it's a public building. You can just knock on the door, ring the doorbell, talk to them, and just ask them questions. Most people are pretty nice and pretty helpful, and if you want to find out information, they're generally going to be more than willing to help you out with that. If you are trying to become a fighter, Vegas is a great place to do it, but more so now than when I was first starting out. There's tons of opportunity in a lot more places. There's legitimate gyms all over the place now. So Vegas is a great place to do it. It might not be the best place for you. Maybe you are already in a good place, but I think one of the main things you can do is just to figure out what is the best place for you, what is the best scenario, what gives you the highest chances of success, and do everything you can to put yourself in that situation. So if that means moving to Vegas, then you're going to have to save up a little bit of money, move out here, find a job, try out gyms until you find the one that works best for you, and then just put your nose to the grindstone, start working. But if it's not here, it might be somewhere else. There's tons of really good gyms, tons of really good coaches, training partners, everything all over the place now. So just find whatever situation is best for you and gives you the highest chances of success, and then put yourself in that. Because if you want to succeed, give yourself the best chances of succeeding, and then you'll just have the highest chance. Like, it doesn't guarantee anything. You can put yourself in the perfect situation and you might not succeed, but I've always just believed if you're trying to do something, just give yourself the best chances of accomplishing what it is you're trying to do.
Great advice, Cory. Thanks a lot for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No problem.